cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. No more. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right for all I know. It's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right for all I know. It's only matter. It's calico. It's black and white. White, white, white. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. It's black and white.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup Round 8 at Okayama. That's right, we're back to the land of the rising sun. My name is Jack Oliphant, but you can call me Jason Derulo because tonight I'll be riding solo. Unfortunately, Jack Werrell hasn't been able to join me this evening, but that doesn't mean we're going to take away from any of the fantastic action that the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup often brings up, and you can be assured that they're not going to let you down with that one either. Just to let you know, we do have a load of championship orders to go through. We've got some fun stats to be going through, and also a whole heap of drivers. We've got 24 out there at the moment, which is a fantastic grid to be having. I can assure you. Every 3 weeks, the championship is held, as you well know, and as the iRacing has just all of a sudden disappeared. Sorry about this, 2 seconds. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not entirely sure what's happening with the picture here. The iRacing seems to have just disappeared. Ah, there we go. It's back to its usual self now. No worries about that. But yes, the MX-5 Sunday Drivers Club, they're normally running every 3 weeks, as you may know. But today, we've actually only got a 2-week gap between this one and the next round, which suits me perfectly, to be honest, because it fits straight in between the British Touring Car Championship rounds. So you only have 1 week off, essentially, and then we're straight back for round number 9, which hopefully I'll be able to tell you what's cracking with that towards the end of the stream. Just having a look at a few of our drivers here at the moment. Top of practice is Roberto Garcia Campos and Hispania Racing. We do have a few new drivers who hopefully will be joining us this evening, and once they join into the action and to the fun, we'll be able to bring you up potentially a few of those new drivers as well. One, Aaron McGrath, is in the session at the moment. He's in the pits though, so we'll show him in a little bit. Just bringing up the logo on the top left there, and obviously we've got the Okayama circuit here. Probably one of the sort of most commonly said facts about the Okayama circuit, probably the most well-known fact anyway, is the fact that it is, of course, based around a sort of golf club almost. It's a gentleman's club style thing. So the sort of business model that most golf clubs and golf resorts around the world is based on is essentially the same as what they tried to base this circuit on. It's based in the middle of a country club where you had to pay a membership, but essentially if you were rich enough and wealthy enough to join and pay the membership and everything like that, you got exclusive access to this circuit. It wasn't really used for any kind of national racing or anything like that. It was just simply a case of $120,000 a year. If you had that and you paid it, you could turn up with whatever car you want. It has hotels and a golf course on it, I think, as well, and all this sort of thing. And you can turn up and just drive your car around, essentially like a track day, but with a subscription almost based service. It's very odd. I'm not sure how successful it ever was, to be honest, because now I believe it hosts various amounts of national racing circuits and all this sort of thing. But yeah, that's how Okayama came about, and to be honest, it's a fantastic circuit. And we had Silverstone Southern Loop last time out 3 weeks ago, which if anybody hasn't watched it, well, you've got about 10 minutes before we go into qualifying. I suggest you go and watch the finale of that, because it was absolutely fantastic racing at the Silverstone Southern Loop, which is a circuit that a lot of people probably won't have actually jumped on and raced too much. However, Okayama is one of the free circuits you get with iRacing. The MX-5 is one of the free cars you get with iRacing. So essentially, this should be one of the tracks that the drivers have most experience of. A lot of the drivers may not have raced it since getting out of their rookie season, and apart from potentially in the Sunday Drivers Club last year and the year before that and all those sort of things. I think we're in the 3rd year of this now. But it is still a track that is very commonly well known in iRacing. A lot of these drivers will mean that, you know, we're looking at hundreds, if not, you know, tenths, if not hundreds of a second between each other. And I can tell you right now, actually, if we just bring up sort of the best time of everyone so far in practice, you can see, in fact, no, better than that, actually, we'll do the gap. You can see it's sort of minuscule margins. It's the top 10 is separated by less than 1 second, sorry. Sander Ware to Roberto Garcia is less than a tenth of a second. Sander Borst is up there, but only 100th behind him is Patrick Borst. Elliott and Cavisto are nicely closely matched. Geddes and Lopez within a tenth of each other as well. So a brilliant sort of mix of array, and it's just like Sunday Drivers Club to bring us this sort of close racing and nice tight action that we're so used to. And if Jack was here, he'd probably be talking about the fact that, you know, if you don't crash, if you come home with a clean car, essentially, in the Sunday Drivers MX-5 or in any MX-5 championship, that is as well, you will probably not really feel like you've done it justice, done the race justice, because essentially, if you come home with a clean car, you haven't done it right, is what Jack always says. So that's what we can sort of look forward to a little bit here tonight as well. So what happened at Silverstone? Well, we can actually bring up the championship order, and starting off with last time out's results at Silverstone Southern Loop. Sander Boers came home victor, and he took the fastest lap, which was a point as well towards his name. So he came home with 31 points. Roberto Garcia came home in second with 28. Michael Elliott is in third with 26 points. Calacavisto in fourth with 24 points. Patrick Boers, he came home in fifth, but he did get pole position, which meant that he got the extra point, which means he's a little bit closer to Calacavisto with 23 points. Now, it is worth noting as well, if anybody hasn't watched, actually, the Silverstone Southern Loop, that it's just come back to me. Don't worry about the end. It's the first corner you want to go and have a look at. To be honest, I was holding back tears. I didn't really want to sound rude on the broadcast or anything like that, but it was hilarious. More than half the field took the wrong turn one after practicing on it for days, a full hour practicing beforehand, qualifying involved as well, and then they jumped straight into the race. And the majority of the field took the wrong opening corner, which allowed the back half of the field, which took the right first corner, which is where you go a little bit further on, and it's a bit of a sharper left-hander than the one everybody else took, which is a bit more of a sweeping left-hander earlier on. Means they all cut the circuit, so they all had slowdowns, which the likes of the top 10, so all had slowdowns. So the 10th to 15 all had the advantage to try and pick up some fantastic places, which is why we had such awesome racing last time out at Silverstone, and hopefully we won't have the same mistakes here at Okayama, but we will have the same brilliant racing. So, as you can see, the top 25 there, but how has that impacted the championship order? Well, Roberto Garcia, he came second at Silverstone. That means he's extended, realistically, his championship lead with 190 points. He's a full 31 points ahead of Sander Boers, Patrick Boers with 142, Calacavisto with 120, Chaz Draycott with 116, which is pretty good going considering he hasn't turned up for half of the event because he's been commentating in real life, and in fact he's not here tonight because he is yet again off in real life doing the Euro Clio Cup over at Misano. Joseph Keaveney in 6th place, Stephen Arell in 7th, Michael Elliott in 8th, Louis Correa in 9th, Ben Hicks in 10th, and I believe Stephen Arell actually, he's changed his, I think he was at Holy Cow Racing and now he's at Scary Dairy Racing, so keep an eye out for that one. We have a team championship breakdown. So me and Jack were struggling slightly last week with how the team championships, because Zancho Simsport had an amount of points, but Chaz Draycott had more and all those sort of things. But this is how it's broken down. So essentially, iRacing Netherlands won. So they had their top scoring driver as Sander Boers, but the majority of their drivers meant that they accumulated the most amount of points for their team. So they gained 20 points for their team. They don't get the amount of points that the drivers accumulated in total, because that would be hundreds and hundreds. They just get the 20 points. So they won that, so they had 200 points for the day. That means they get 20 points. Hispania Racing might have got 195, which means they get 19 because they came second. All that sort of thing. So the top 5 takeaway from Silverstone is iRacing Netherlands with 20, Hispania Racing with 19, Simulation Racing with 18, Simulation Racing again with 17, and iRacing Netherlands again with 16 actually. So sorry, my mistake actually. It's not about the average score. It's not about the cumulative score of each driver. It's Sander Boers got 20 points for his team, and that's how it's broken down, which is why they were named by it. So apologies about that. Ignore basically everything I just said. But this is how the teams is panning out for the entire season. So iRacing Netherlands with those 20 points. And plus the whatever Patrick Boers managed to gather them, as well, is now on 210 points in total for the championship. Hispania Racing with 168, Simulation Leagues with 150, Fast Cars Go Bang 139, Simtech Racing with 131, and Simtech Racing Not Silver with 106 as well. And the rest of the field you can see down there now. Holy Cow Racing, I believe, have been split up slightly. So there we go. Darius Scary currently in 11th place. Holy Cow Racing in 14th as well. Armstrong Racing have got a few new drivers here this evening, so hopefully we'll see them put some strong performances together. And then just as a bit of a fun sort of fact to throw out there, the Sunday Drivers Club all-time lead laps, so they do this a couple of times over the course of the season. They put together a sort of culmination of maybe all the person who's led the most amount of laps, which is what we're looking at right now, but maybe they've put together a list of who's gained the most pole positions, who's got the most fastest laps, who's got the most wins, and all this sort of thing. Well, today we can present you with the Sunday Drivers Club all-time lead laps. So led laps and lead laps, I'm not entirely sure what the proper English there is, but Louis Correa with 109 is pretty far ahead of second place Andrew Lovesey, who we haven't seen that much this season. Chaz Draycott with 60, relatively impressive considering he's commentated for 2 seasons and he's only turned up for half the season here. Sander Ware with 48, Dan Mould with 45. Unfortunately, Dan's not with us anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Kalle Kavisto with 37 as well, and Brown Clays with 30. And then there's quite a lot of drivers who are sort of equal for that 8th position area. So Rene Ware, Sander Bohr, Sebastian Hain, Roberto Garcia Campos as well. Obviously, our championship leader at the moment. You don't need to lead all the laps to win a championship. Colin Turkington, the British Touring Cars, can tell you that. And obviously, there's a whole host of drivers that are underneath 20 laps of the total there. So let's go back and have a look at what's going on in practice. There's only about 4 minutes left of this, so hopefully we'll be able to get some qualifying underway sooner rather than later. There's a little bit of a jink out there for Roberto Garcia as one of the drivers was looking to come through. Okayama, it's a tough circuit, but there is one particular, probably the most important corner, and we'll just watch Roberto Garcia go towards it. It's up the hill, and these little 1.8 engines, they don't produce an awful lot of power, do they? They sort of go in, and you need to keep an awful lot of momentum up. Apex momentum, minimal speed is absolutely key here, and it's this corner you're looking at right now. It's extremely steep uphill. Maybe we'll try and catch a driver who's on a hot lap during qualifying, because when they're on the limit, it is so important because you're flat out now right until a very, very sharp hairpin. And the sharp hairpin is a key point, no matter what car you're in, for an overtaking manoeuvre, because you've been flat out for such a long time. You may have had a good run, an opportunity maybe to get into the slipstream of another car. You slam the brakes on, and you can dive up the inside of drivers there. It is possible to defend against if you're around the outside, because you're quickly into the left-hander here, down the hill, and then sharply into another left-hander. So if you are going side by side through the first apex, you can make sure the job's done through the second, and then a little bit of a straight here. Ambitious if you're going to launch one up the inside here, because you're straight into, there's no time at all before you sweep back, keep it to the left, and go into the right-hand hairpin again. It's, as I said, it's not the most technical circuit in the world. There is heavy braking zones, there are slow corners, there are fast corners. The final 2 corners are relatively fast here. You can commit a lot of speed into the right-hand penultimate corner that you've just seen, and into the final corner there. Again, another crucial one. Turn 1, not necessarily the most popular overtaking opportunity, but the fact that you can get so much overspeed through the pit straight means that there is an opportunity always to try and make an ambitious move, which the Sunday Drivers Club is known for. So no doubt we will see a little bit more of that. So another new driver, we mentioned it before, Aaron McGrath. He's with the Armstrong Racing crew, all the way down in 19th at the moment, but having said that, this is his 13th lap that he's about to start, and considering he's behind a whole host of people that have done a lot more than that, say 24.5 laps, Alvaro Rodriguez Porter, it is worth noting that that's a pretty good going considering it's his first evening here. And 24 drivers, it may not be the highest heights that we've seen throughout the season, but it is still a pretty good representation considering it is a lovely Sunday evening here in England, that is. I'm not entirely sure what it might be over in Europe. It depends on where you are in Europe. If you're at the Nürburgring, it's probably pretty foggy as it was last night, and if you're at Spa, it's probably pretty stormy, but depending on where you are in the world may obviously change that. But it's still a fantastic, as the world starts rotating again, especially, I'm not entirely sure what it's like over in sort of specific areas in Europe, but here in England we're starting to see the lockdowns eased. It may be slightly longer before we get the full easing, but hopefully drivers still turn up to their sim racing responsibilities, because it has been fantastic to see the boom in drivers. We don't want to see that fall away too much. Speaking of Alvaro Rodriguez Porter, you can see in the bottom left, and actually on the car, they've had a change in branding, I guess, a change in team. They're no longer Hispania Racing, I think it was. They are now Spirit 14 Racing. So whenever you see one of these drivers, Alvaro is one of them. Javier Lopez is another. Sander Ware, the organiser of the championship, the person who talks to us the most as broadcasters, he's also in Spirit 14. And there's an awful lot of them. Rene Ver is one, Arturo De Villa, and Henrico Pudenstein as well is all in the Spirit 14 Racing. So in terms of the team championships, they're looking like they're potentially going to go strong. And I'm delighted to say there is a possibility I might get a co-commentator for this evening. as the practice checkered flag drops, and it is none other than my usual MX-5 partner in crime on the comms, Edward May. We always cover another series together on MX-5, so we know the ins and outs of it, and I'm sure he'll enjoy this series plenty as well, because it's going to be very similar to the series that we usually cover together, which is just finished actually, so looking forward to seeing if he jumps on. So as the cars start to flood out, we can see Sander Ware in the Spirit 14 machine getting out there. Now, the important thing with this, we don't often see it in MX-5 racing, but since there are so many teams here today, especially Spirit 14, we have so many drivers in those specific teams as well, it's very important to work together, especially for, any kind of track, to be honest. Oh, that is, oh my days, Sander Ware, and I'm not sure who that was. That is the opposite of working together. I can't believe what I've just seen after I've said it as well. Commentators curse, here to bite you. That hasn't even come up on my events ticker, so I can't even bring that back up. But that's a bit of a shame, because that was just the perfect timing. Sander Ware, and I'm not sure if it was René Vere who was involved in that. I don't think it was Henrico Puttenstein. I think it was Henrico Puttenstein, because he came out in sort of second or third on track, and Sander Ware was right there. And I can actually say, as Henrico Puttenstein puts it into the wall, that's very awkward. As he was made contact with Sander Ware, I can actually say that I do now have a co-commentator, I believe. Ed, are you with me?
Hello, yes I am. Great to be here, Jack. And maybe it was the curse of me arriving that put Puttenstein off his game a little bit.
Yeah, it may well have been. He actually had a contact with Sander Ware just before as well, so it's not been a fantastic outlap for the Spirit 14 drivers, obviously rebranded, which you may not know much about, Ed, because you're obviously new to tonight's championship. But it's essentially, let me break it down for you, it's MX-5 racing around Okayama for half an hour with 24 drivers on track. Does that sound all right?
That sounds all right. Yeah, obviously, yourself and myself, we're very familiar with MX-5 racing. I think we've commentated on a couple of rounds here at Okayama as well, and it's a circuit that many drivers on iRacing, especially those here on the grid this evening, should know plenty about, having raced it a lot in officials, the Advanced Mazda and, well, the standard iRacing rookie Mazdas. They often come here because it's a free track and a free car.
It is indeed, isn't it? It's one of those money-saving rounds that the championships like to put on before the drivers have to commit to buying the likes of Monza or Alton Park or Spa or any of those sort of big circuits. That's why they all jump into Okayama, just to get people bled into the championship, and so they can sort of push on from there, can't they, and get involved and really enjoy it, and then they're hooked, and then they want to pay for more. And it is a good little circuit, though, isn't it? I mean, obviously it was sort of a gentleman's club originally, wasn't it? But it is actually quite an interesting and quite good little circuit that they've made here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great little circuit. As you mentioned, it alluded to that it was a circuit that was used by, I think, a gentleman's club, like you said, or a country club, where they'd, instead of going golfing, they'd use it to drive their own little custom cars, and their cars that they bought with their ludicrous sums of money. Not sure if you mentioned as well, Jack, that I think it held the round of the Pacific Grand Prix and Formula One for a couple of years.
I didn't actually mention that, no, because I was unaware of that, actually. I didn't know. I hadn't seen that little fact when I was doing my research. But, I mean, like you said, it is a ludicrous amount of money that drivers have to, or they used to have to pay. I'm not even sure if it's actually in function anymore, but it was $120,000 that they used to have to pay to be a part of this club, and that was before you even flew over here to get onto the circuit, isn't it? Loads of times being put in now, with a bit more representative of what we were seeing before, and obviously you're semi-new to this championship. I'll give you the rundown of the protagonists, shall I, for you. Ed Roberto Garcia Campos, he's currently top of the championship, a consistent driver who this season has not really been out the top three very often at all. He's never been out the headlines, actually, to be fair, either. He's always had either drama or championship points come his way, which is always the sign of a champion, I would say, to be always in amongst it. Then we got Patrick Borst, iRacing Netherlands, and Sander Borst, both brothers for the iRacing Netherlands team. They're second and third at the moment. Michael Ellett has been quick, not necessarily the most consistent driver, but always quite quick. I think it's Sander Borst who's in the white car, because Trading Paint seems to have glitched, even though it's exactly the same as Patrick Borst. We've had that for a couple of weeks, but if you see the white car, that is Sander Borst, and that is Patrick Borst's brother. They're both racing for iRacing in the Netherlands.
Right, good to have the rundown through the field, especially for someone that's relatively new to this series. Myself, I've obviously caught a few of the rounds here and there, and I think I commentated on the final round of last season that it's actually Chaz Draycott make his debut in this at Oulton Park. And of course, like you've very familiar with Chaz Draycott, when he takes part in these rounds, he does often win, and that was the case at Oulton Park. Unfortunately, obviously, he's not here. I believe he's down in Misano. So I'm sure he'd love to be behind the wheel of an MX-5 here at Okayama, but he's unfortunately got other commitments that they just get in the way, don't they?
They do, don't they? I don't know why on earth he's taking work over in Misano for the Euroclear Cup when he could be sat in his office racing the Sunday Drivers Club. It's just a lack of commitment, I'd say. And the good thing is about me saying that as well, he can't shout at me because he's currently on a plane back, so he won't be watching this. Yeah, so a couple of drivers coming across the line now. Javier Lopez, Spirit 14, there we go. I was about to say he's put a purple time in. David Geddes as well, he's put a purple first sector, but not necessarily any better than that by the looks of it, but it's starting to flush out now. I mean, I suppose we'll have a chat about a little bit more about the track and how to actually race it here, Ed. You're a bit more familiar behind the racing wheel of iRacing than I am, and you've probably driven this circuit a little bit more than me. There's a few key corners, isn't it? The one we're actually watching Xavier Lopez go up now, and then the braking zone into the next one. Those sort of the key areas we're going to see a lot of overtaking, isn't it?
Yeah, then this corners that we just saw Javier Lopez go through, like you mentioned, that's outward curve, and it's so crucial because you've got that long back straight and then into this turn 5, the hairpin. Plenty of moves, like you said, being made with the slipstream, of course, aiding the driver's ability to slip a move down the outside with the overspeed and even maybe try and get the inside. It depends though, isn't it? You've got to get the move done, because if you don't, then you're going to have chance to the driver you're fighting with to have a fight back through these subsequent left-handers. Be very careful. And of course, track space is at a premium with the amount of drivers out on the circuit. We can see Javier Lopez, and that is the number 45, is it? The 45 ahead of Joseph Keaveney.
Yeah, it may well be, actually, but you're right, it is a tight little circuit. It is small. We've described it quite a lot, but it is small. I mean, we've commentated on a GT1 and Porsche 911 GT3 sort of multi-class race here before now, haven't we, Ed? That was actually sort of almost very tough and very tight, because it is a good circuit, but it is, small. It's not massive, and with 24 cars out there trying to find a little bit of space, it does create a little bit of friction. What you should do, obviously, is work as a team. And Spirit 14, I think they have 6 cars out there at the moment, but for some reason, they're insistent on driving this circuit on their own, which is, strikes me as slightly odd. Whereas, as you said, the 2 drivers ahead of them, actually, Keaveney, who I'm just trying to find on the timing tower, he's racing hard, or he's qualifying hard anyway, with his teammate at Simtech Racing Silver, which is the car who's now picking up the slipstream behind him.
Yeah, so we're going to see maybe Joseph Keaveney assisting the bright white car behind to some sort of a quick time. You can see as well on the left-hand side the thin margins there are between first, second and third. Less than a tenth of a second between the 3 up there at the sharp end of the grid. Very close indeed. Just 6 thousandths separating Sander Borst from being on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, Patrick Borst just holding that honour for now, but again, less than a tenth of a second to Garcia. Then you look further back as well. Sander Ware and Svetanov, just a thousandth of a second between them at the moment. Keaveney, the driver we're seeing right now, being overtaken by the Spirit 14 driver who we've just been having a look at for so long. That's the number 20 of the name has just gone completely out of my head. Who were we just looking at for so long? Javier Lopez, I think it was, wasn't it? Squeezing up the inside and wanting to get past the Simtech Racing drivers. But that is the sort of thing we're used to seeing in not only this qualifying session for Sunday Drivers Club, but for MX-5 racing in general. It is brilliant, isn't it, how these little 1.8 litre cars, free on iRacing, just give everybody the opportunity to race so close with the lack of aero. I mean, some people might say that, oh, no aero is no fun, but in my opinion, a mechanical grip is a lot more enjoyable and teaches you an awful lot more than a car with a massive amount of aero.
Oh, honestly, yeah, it's so satisfying, isn't it, when you can hook up a lap in this little MX-5 because you don't have too many tools at your disposal. So being able to maximize what limited stuff you have at your disposal, you can pull off a brilliant little lap here. We're going to see if Roberto Garcia can improve on his brilliance. He's currently sitting at the top of the standings with a 1 minute 45.5. As we see him now coming down the back straight, he's going to be giving a little bit of a tow to the 20 behind of Javier Lopez. And Spirit 14, like you mentioned, they are a relatively new rebrand, aren't they? In fact, is it this first time this evening that running with the new paints? If so, they're going to be hoping for a really good little showing.
It is, yeah, and to me, I don't know about you. Obviously, you play FIFA a little bit, but don't you think that looks like almost like an EA Sports logo on it? The Spirit 14 looks like FIFA 21 or something like that, doesn't it? A little bit, in my opinion. I think it's just a similar looking font. Obviously, there's no other connection there whatsoever. But I think the font is fairly similar to it. But unfortunately, my timing tower has it's saying everyone is improving constantly, which isn't the case. So I can't actually see who's on a particularly fast lap. But Kalle Kavisto is a driver who's really improved over the course of the time that me and Jack have been basically been commentating on this series over the course of the last 8 rounds. Scored some good championship points and a couple of race wins here and there as well. And by the looks of it, he's fighting hard, the Finn, to be within that top 5. And I can tell you that he's only a couple of hundreds off Sander Borst, and 2 places ahead. Michael Ellett is sort of sided his way into the middle there, but the fact that he's not got any slipstream on the start finish straight or the back straight either means that he's going to struggle a little bit, isn't he, just to try and get that extra couple of hundreds that he might really value when it comes to moving himself from 5th to say 3rd.
Yes, not much that he needs to find, but sometimes the more you push, the harder it is to get that lap time and to really get those gains. So maybe Kalle Kavisto is going to just try and back off for a little bit. And maybe might be worth just trying to find a little bit of a gap where you've got a car in front to get some slipstream off of, because at the moment that's probably going to be the only way that Kalle Kavisto, after the length of time he spent in this qualifying session, his tyres might start to go off. It could be tricky to make any improvements, but like you mentioned, he has done very well recently with some good improvements to his pace. Meanwhile, we're following Aaron McGrath, and give us the scoop on this one, Jack. I haven't seen Aaron before.
Well, that's because he hasn't been here before, Ed, and so I don't particularly have much of a scoop on Aaron McGrath, apart from the fact he's new to the championship. He's one of the drivers that I was asked to add to the driver list for this round. So we'll see how he gets on. In practice, wasn't setting the world alight, but to be honest, it's an intimidating grid, isn't it? When you join a new championship and you maybe haven't practiced as much as you were, and you don't quite know the pace of the other drivers or sort of how the track's going to react and all that sort of thing. It is quite intimidating. I mean, I didn't think it would be, but you know full well that we used to cover another MX-5 series together, and I jumped onto the actual grid once I stopped commentating on it. I jumped on to do some racing on it, didn't I? And you were still commentating. And all of a sudden, I was terrified. I was more nervous jumping onto that grid than I had been onto any real-life racing that I'd done before. And I was a lot worse at it as well. So the fact that Aaron has turned up, Armstrong Racing aren't particularly well represented here today. Normally they are, but tonight they are not. So he's pretty much turned up. He's flying the flag solo. So fair play to him for even getting out there and setting some quick times.
Yeah, exactly. And he's doing well for himself. There's very honest lap times that he's setting. It's just so difficult, like you mentioned, to come into a new series and to be on the money right off the mark.
Yeah, Martin Smith is another one as well, actually. He's brand new to the championship. I've added a few this week, and I'm just trying to remember which particular drivers they are. But Martin Smith, I definitely remember putting on, and he's currently 16th.
Yeah, currently on an out lap. He's going to be able to get across the line in time. And tell us, in qualifying, are you able to complete the lap that you're on as soon as the clock ticks over, or is it that's it end?
You put me on the spot there. I think they managed to actually finish the lap time that they're on, because sometimes
done that lap and now he's doing an in lap.
Yeah, that was very odd, because he would have got that. I think he would have been able to finish the lap that he was on, as that's how most championships do it, isn't it? You sort of finish, the 15 minutes ticks over, and then you can finish the lap that you're on, or there's a 2-minute sort of gap, so you only have 2 minutes to finish the lap you're on. Otherwise, it just shoots straight straight to the next race. But very wide there by Michael Elliott. He's not going to improve on this lap at all, is he? He did improve on the last lap, which has solidified his 4th place, really, but he's still not close enough to Sander Borst, although it didn't really matter whether he overtook Sander Borst on the times anyway, because they're starting on the same row, aren't they? And it's not particularly important to be on 3rd or 4th, it's just good to be on that 2nd row of the grid.
Yeah, exactly. As you saw, Michael Elliott, he was able to complete one more lap if he wanted to, but he's pulled off to the side of the road. So now I think the last driver that crossed the line that's certainly trying to set a lap could be Joseph Keaveney. Going to follow him. Yeah, he's now just coming out of Atwood, so he's going to carry on this lap. As I say that, though, he proves me wrong, pulls over to the side. No improvements being made here for Joseph Keaveney.
Commentator's curse, isn't it? It's always the way. Here's Sander Borst, 1,000th of a second behind his brother Patrick Borst. Now, that is quite important, isn't it? Because if he can just eke out that 1 extra 100th of a second, that means he's gone from the 2nd row of the grid to the 1st row of the grid alongside Roberto Garcia Campos. And to be honest, actually, if he can gain a 10th of a second, he would actually be on pole position, because that's how tight the top 3 are at the moment. But it looks like he's not improving anywhere on any of the sectors. So as he comes across the line, I think it's going to have to settle for 3rd place at the moment. And yeah, he didn't improve at all. Henrico Puttenstein is the last driver that we've got to cross the line. And he has improved on Sector 1. He's in 17th at the moment. As he comes across the line, where is it going to put him? Is it going to be an improvement? It looks like it is not.
You came a little bit close to it, but just not in the end for Puttenstein. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to improve on his lap time. So now we've come to the end of qualifying. Drivers just getting that last little bit of extra practice in. We know, don't we, Jack, that drivers use all of the time they can to get gains. But I think now we're going to get moved into the next server. Or not next server, into the next session, which is the race.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, as soon as we're available to us, we'll bring you up the grid. But essentially, what is going to be a half-hour race or a certain amount of laps here at Sunday Drivers. They vary the amount of laps, obviously, because it has to be fitting in to a half-hour race. But it's going to be fantastic, I'm sure. And 24 cars. It looked like qualifying. Obviously, they're very spaced out, but we can expect anywhere on the grid to essentially be jam-packed, can't we? It's if there's not a fight, or say there's half a second between 1st and 2nd, we can shoot down to the fight for 17th position, and there'll be a battle there with 3 wide going into 3 corners abreast, sort of thing. It's going to be absolutely mental. And as I said before in the broadcast, and what Jack Werrell usually says, is the fact that if you come off Sunday Drivers with a clean, non-damaged car, then you haven't done it right. But as you can see on your screen right now, Roberto Garcia Campos, he's not only your championship leader, he is currently your pole position man as well, with Patrick Borst alongside him in 2nd place, Sander Borst in 3rd, Michael Elliott for Simulation Racing League in 4th, Cali Cavisto 5th, Javier Lopez 6th, Sander Ware in 7th, Sebastian Hain in 8th, René Vere in 9th, Victor Oliveira in 10th, Iordine Svetanov, in 11th place, Alvaro Rodriguez Porter in 12th, and we'll just scroll down to see 13th, Joseph Keaveney, Geddes, Bacchus, Smith, Puttenstein, Dalemans, Mann, McGrath, De Vere, Clist, Reed, and Pyer, all in the top 24. And in fact, that's actually all we've got time for. All the races we've got. Normally, we've got about 4 pages worth. But good to see that we can keep that concise. And all the drivers start to line up. It's a damn good-looking grid, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, exactly. A very nice-looking grid. Just waiting for Roberto Garcia to come up to the front of the grid, and there he does. A few more drivers coming through, and a few drivers as well. It didn't say lap times. Was that because they had exclusions from qualifying with penalties?
Potentially, yes. I don't get access to see who's had penalties. It may just be people wanting to start at the back of the grid, a little bit like what we saw at the SRW NASCAR series. Maybe they're just expecting there to be a bit of chaos so they can come through the order a little bit clean. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, the 3 drivers at the back of the grid that haven't put a qualifying time in: Paul Cliss for Apex Racing, Peter Reeve for Simtech, and Timo Piaha for Piha? I'm not entirely sure. Piha for 2G Parts and Equipment Racing as well. So those drivers didn't set a lap time in the end, which is a bit of a shame. But hopefully we'll see them get stuck in for some great action here at Okayama.
Yes, absolutely, Jack. I think the lights are about to come on, so I'll let you get us started.
Yeah, indeed. So as the engine notes rise, the lights are starting to come on your screen. And for the first and only time this evening, for the Sunday Drivers MX-5 Cup, we are away and racing, and it's a good start by Roberto Garcia, a good start by Patrick Borst, but I tell you what, Sander Borst is under a little bit of a threat there for the attack of Michael Ellett, who's looking up the inside. Is there going to be contact? Inevitably there is. Michael Ellett and Sander Borst turning the wrong ways in the worst part of the circuit there, with a lack of front bumper now as well. The rest of the field seem to get it through unscathed, which is pretty amazing, to be honest. A few drivers really making some good moves. Arturo Davia is up 3. Aaron McGrath is up 5 positions. He's up to 15th place. But Patrick Borst is leading the way ahead of Roberto Garcia Campos. Or he was until he got binned by Roberto Garcia Campos. And I think, although I never like to take sides so quickly, I think I pretty much showed my opinion already. It looked like a bit of a tap up the rear end, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely from Roberto Garcia. Just too eager on the throttle. Maybe just trying to push him through the corner. I hope that he wouldn't get spun around, but unfortunately that was the case. Meanwhile, down the inside, number 3, Calicavisto, he's looking to try and get into the lead of the race. Wow, that would be a brilliant start to the race for the Finn, who's trying to fly up the order. Meanwhile, Michael Ellett, well, we saw the drummers in turn 1, was going for the inside, but the gap was closed off, and he was squeezed off of the circuit there by Patrick Borst, or was it Sander Borst? One of the two Borsts. Either way, both of them are down in 20th and 21st place. So the two iRacing Netherlands drivers having an absolutely torrid time.
Yeah, iRacing Netherlands are actually top of the team championship as well. So they're going to have to put in some hard graft here if they're wanting to make their way through the order. But speaking of graft, Aaron McGrath, sort of stretching there slightly, is in 14th position, which is a fantastic start for him in a new championship, obviously. So fair props to him. But Roberto Garcia Campos, not sure how he lost the race lead, but he has now regained it, obviously, after that contact. We'll have a look at it a little bit further in the race. But to be honest, there's so much action going up and down the field, it's really hard to make sure we actually have a look at all the action that we need to have a look at on the replays, because it's just so close. And in fact, here they're still going at it. David Geddes just ahead of Aaron McGrath, but behind the Spirit 14 driver, Alvaro Rodriguez Porter.
McGrath is fighting back though. Brilliant cut back there. He let him have the inside, then just chose to power on through later. Now coming into outward curve though, the inside goes the way of the number 17. David Geddes down the inside, gets the move done, but again, Aaron McGrath gets a good exit. Is he going to try and put the pressure on into the hairpin? Well, he's going to have to worry potentially about Henrico Puttenstein. This is it, going down the inside, the 33, like another Dutchman, number 33. Going to see if he can absolutely send it though down the inside and pull off a Verstappen-esque move. And I tell you what, he has done.
Yeah, if it was Verstappen, I would have forced him off the track and tried to do it around going over the inside curbs or something ridiculous like that, wouldn't it? It's a good, solid move that by Henrico Puttenstein, and good racing respect from the Armstrong racing driver of McGrath as well. Let's have a little bit of a look further to order. It looks like Victor Oliveira is getting mixed up with the Spirit 14 driver, and that's pretty much because whatever battle's going on is going to involve one of the Spirit 14. That's going to be a huge pile up ahead. Everybody getting involved on possibly the worst apex to have a crash on the entire circuit. Look at this, they're still trying to get out of their way. There's too many drivers to even count who's been involved in that. What it has done, I keep going back to him, Aaron McGrath's up 11 places into 9th now. But Patrick Borst and Sander Borst also helped them come through. Rene Ver, Victor Oliveira have gone back to the pits. They've lost 11 positions now. But absolute chaos there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I saw as well Sven Dailman's actually involved in that incident. I think he just arrived on the scene. We're going to see here exactly. And there's a cloud of smoke. There's nowhere really you go. You could try and maybe go to the inside or outside, but when the incident's happening in front, maybe you just hope that you go where the cars are, and it's a bit like the NASCAR strategy. You go where the car is, not where the car is going to be. But unfortunately, Sven Dailmans didn't quite find the luck there.
Yeah, it's almost like it looked like the rush to get to the pub after Boris Johnson said we can go and have a pint, didn't it? It just the amount of people that was like, no, I want to be first. But, hopefully everybody has managed to sort of keep their car in some kind of working order. We might not have the amount of midfield battle that we're going to have. Well, we are going to have it, but we're just going to have it with different people. Iordanin Svetanov is one of those drivers who looks like he's got a damaged front end, and the new tyre model on the damage model on the MX-5 means that if you do have a damaged front end, it can be really hurtful, can't it? I mean, you could have the slowest incident in history, but if your front end gets damaged just a touch, a 4-mile-an-hour difference, say, that can ruin your top speed by a good 10-15 miles an hour, which can absolutely cripple you for the race, can't it?
Yeah, we've seen it before, haven't we, in the other series that we've commentated on. I'm guessing you've seen it plenty of times here in Sunday Drivers. It's happened to you. Yeah, you lose so much speed. You get a massive amount of drag from the damage done to the front of your car. And on quite a high power demanding circuit, Okayama, where you're flat out for quite a lot of the lap with these 2 long straights here, then you're going to be really losing out a lot of lap time. So drivers coming into pits. Actually, Iordanin Svetanov is coming into the pits there in the number 14 car with a very funky livery, I have to say, that Iordanin's running, but unfortunately going to have to repair some damages.
Yeah, well, Iordanin is actually the reason why I said about the front bumper, but I suppose if you don't have one, then it's not too much of a problem. Or at least that's what Sander Borst is thinking right now. He just wants to get his engine as cool as possible, doesn't he? Just expose the radiator, we'll have the coldest engine on the entire grid. Don't need that for any kind of aero. And here he is. He's overtaken Smith into 11th place on a start-finish straight, which is quite impressive. So, yeah, a good drive by Sander Borst, trying to make his way through the order. He's lost 8 places off his starting position because obviously he started, I think on the front row was Sander. Had that mix-up in the first corner with Michael Ellett, and is now attempting to fight back. Speaking of fighting back, I think Michael Ellett has just been muscled out of it, shall we say, by Sander Ver in the Spirit 14 machine. That is obviously 4th place, I believe. So Michael losing 1 position off where he started. He did start in 4th place, but to be honest, everything has calmed down just a touch for the time being. We do have 16 laps. We're a quarter of the way through this race, and to be honest, it's probably going to heat back up in about half a lap head. But it's typical MX-5 racing, isn't it?
This is proper MX-5 racing. It's fortunate we saw so many contacts and incidents early on, as we see a replay here of, well, this is the start of the race. Michael Elliott's down the inside. He has the trap position, but I think he gets potentially forced off a little bit by Sander Borst. I want to get your opinion of it down there, because he's going to the inside, but he gets squeezed there, doesn't he, by, I think, Sander Borst maybe wasn't expecting Michael Elliott to still be there.
I think my opinion is I can understand why Michael Ellett felt like he wanted to go for the move, but I don't think it was realistically ever going to come off. It was a door that was forever constantly being closed, and it's a very sort of narrow apex there. It's an early apex, which doesn't help, and he probably should have been a bit wiser to it. Come off the brake and maybe try to get him on the exit or something. But he was committed. He just wasn't close enough to make the move up the inside there for me, Michael Ellett. But I suppose I'll go to the stewards.
Yeah, I think for both drivers, it was a case of, well, Michael Ellett, he had his foot in the door and was announcing, "I've got my foot in the door, stop closing the door." And then, well, I think it was the other case of the other driver was like, "Well, I'm closing the door, get your foot out of the way."
Yeah,
but
I think
in that case, they've exactly like both reached an impasse, I think, there. And unfortunately, that saw, well, both of them encounter difficulties. Although Michael Ellett did come off better in that occasion, only losing 1 position since the start. And, well, I've seen a great little tussle here between Sebastian Hain and Joseph Keaveney for Simtech Racing Silver, who's up now into 6th place. It's a good little 4-way scrap, this, isn't it, for 6th? And look who's involved in the middle of it, Aaron McGrath.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were looking just then at the sort of fight for the top 5. Well, this is the fight for not the bottom 5, but the sort of back half of the top 10, shall we say. The 6th down to 10th position, and to be honest, it looks like it's just going to be just as close as the rest of the rest of the fights on circuit at the moment as well. It's further back, just outside, I'd say probably 14th or 13th down to sort of 20th. The sort of gaps are relatively large now, so there's not that much action right at the back of the field. People probably just trying to recover drive now and get up to what essentially would be this fight right now. Well, having said that, Martin Smith and Alvaro, it's not Porter, is it? It's Amalula Bacchus is just having a little bit of a ding-dong, and luckily they've backed out before any kind of big incident.
Yeah, it's good to see that Finally, the drivers are maybe starting to have cooler heads now that we're getting into the first third of the race being over and done with. Joseph Keaveney, though, leads, like you said, this 4-car train for 6th place. Coming into Atwood Curve, though he could be vulnerable potentially for a cutback manoeuvre, because look at that, the number 12, Sebastian Hain, again with a very good run coming out of Atwood Curve all the way along this back straight. He's going to already go for the inside into the hairpin. He's got a slight overlap. As I say that, though, the drive out of the corner isn't there. He's still going to have a chance to brake late and send the move. Is he going to be able to commit, though, and get it to stick? Oh, there's contact there between the pair of them and sweeping on by. Well, taking it all in his stride, David Geddes, but then David gets hit. Oh, the number 12, Sebastian Hain. What happens there was he just trying to send a move from too far back. Both of them losing out. What a shame. That was shaping up to be a brilliant battle.
Yeah, I was very much looking forward to seeing how all that was going to come about, but here is Sebastian Hain. In fact, no, let's go a little bit further back. Get David Geddes going off track here. But we want to focus on Sebastian Hain, obviously. And, yeah, again, I don't really feel like there was I mean, the door was open, but there was never an overtaking opportunity there.
No, that's one of the corners that you can't really send a move down the inside of, because you don't have time to get on the brakes. You don't really brake much for the corner at all. You just need to carry the momentum through, speed on, and really balance it on the ragged edge. And sending it down the inside on another car will always end up in either one or both taking a trip into the kids litter on the exit. Unfortunately, that was the case. Meanwhile, higher up the field, Michael Elliott has been able to get back ahead of Sander Ware. And where can Sander make the move? Well, most likely into turn 5 here. If he gets a good run out of Atwood, he gets a decent run, but I don't know if he'll be close enough.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, is it? I mean, it's a good overtaking opportunity. And just look at that. It looks like you've copied and pasted, doesn't it? The Cali Cavisto, Javier Lopez are the 2 cars ahead, and then Michael Elliott, Sander Ware. It's the same thing, isn't it? The SRL driver ahead of the Spirit 14 driver. It does look like a glitch in the Matrix almost, the way you're having deja vu with these 4 drivers. With then Roberto Campos just absolutely gone in the distance as well. He's gained 2-second lead over the drivers that are currently fighting. There you go. He's just going into the corner now at the top of your screen. But this is a fantastic fight between Spirit 14 and SRL, isn't it? The Simulation Racing Leagues. To see who's going to come out on top here between sort of the 2 of them. Who's going to score the championship points, the team championships points, that is, for their respective team championships. You know, that's essentially, you know, it's like Formula 1, isn't it? Everybody wants to win the Drivers' Championship, but actually probably what counts a little bit more, and what's probably more impressive, is the Team Championships a little bit more, isn't it? Because that shows a sort of a greater cohesion and a fantastic sort of consistency between all the drivers consistently over the entire course of the season. And iRacing Netherlands cars, I mean, they're currently top of the Team Championships. But Sander Boers is, well, to be fair, he's in 7th place now, which is a fantastic recovery drive. But I'm not entirely sure where the other one, Patrick Boers, all the way down in 20th place. So there's an opportunity for drivers to try and make some ground back.
Yeah, what is the shape looking like in that championship? How far ahead are iRacing Netherlands? Because a result like this, depending on the points they lose, could be catastrophic for them later down the line in the season, where things inevitably tighten up once more.
Yeah, well, I think Spirit 14, I've just escaped of my head now who they've actually rebranded from, but I believe they're in
H20.
H20, yes, I believe that because of the amount of drivers that they have, they're actually within the top 3 in the championship as well. So realistically, they need to score good points. Sim Racing League are up there as well. It's, you know, don't get it twisted. It's quite a tight, and considering we're only on round 8 of, well, there's loads around for the Sunday drivers, because essentially we go right through the year, even though it is only every 3 weeks. There's an awful lot of rounds. And so if iRacing Netherlands, you know, they do slip up every so often, there's enough drivers in, say, Spirit 14 or SRL to accumulate enough points to really make a dent in their championship lead at this early stage. So hopefully we'll see more of that throughout the entirety of the season. Obviously not wishing iRacing Netherlands any bad luck, but what we love as a spectator is that nice close drama.
Yeah, very close indeed. That's what we're seeing. Close actually between teammates, and Henrico Puttenstein with a bit of damage there onto the front of his car. I don't think I saw that before, so there's something maybe happened between himself and Arturo Davila.
Yeah, I can't see it on the event ticker.
Maybe it was earlier damage that we've just been missing out on. What I have to say as well, Jack, is I really do like the look of these Spirit 14 race cars. You mentioned it, little logo on the side looking like an EA Sports game logo, but I think it's quite nice and understated. The white and the yellow looks a lot like a car that you just see driving about at your normal club evening, doesn't it? It's going to race circuit at the evenings and seeing that there, you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
You wouldn't know, and to be honest, it sort of is relatively realistic because what a lot of drivers do. I mean, what a lot of people do on iRacing and stuff like that is, we put really fancy, amazing liveries on their car, but in real life you can't really do that. It's all very basic because if you crash it and you damage some liveries or something, you have to have another one. You have to re-wrap that, and the more complicated it is, the more expensive it is, which is why you see a lot of club drivers in cars that look very similar to Spirit 14 racing here, because it's simple. It's just one wrap, it's yellow or it's white, stick it on, and maybe it is based off a real-life race car. Maybe they've cause a few of the other series that we cover, they do actually use this, they try and get it as close to their real-life racing car as possible, don't they, their virtual car, so maybe it's similar to that.
Yeah, maybe indeed, but let's focus on some fighting now instead of gushing over some lovely liveries. As I say that, these are two very nice liveries. Spec maps, you know what I like about them, Jack. You know how I get when I see spec maps. And these are two brilliant examples. Simple, understated from Simtech Racing Silver, and then Ara McGrath's Armstrong Racing car as well. Looks very nice indeed. Almost looks, I know it's Armstrong Racing, looks a little bit like a different astronaut, Buzz Lightyear.
It does actually, doesn't it? That's a very good comparison. And you're right, you are a sucker for a spec map, aren't you? You do love it. And right now it's looking a lot better than Sander Boor's iRacing Netherlands bright white car that unfortunately we can't ever seem to fix on the stream. I don't know why that is. Apparently it works on his end, but it's never once worked this season on our end. Only for Sanders. Patrick Boor's, it works a treat, but we've never been able to figure that one out, even though we deleted the files, reinstalled trading paints, all the sort of things that you would expect to do. Just never has worked. But
I can tell you as a newcomer, it's not working for me either.
Oh, well, there we go. So it isn't a problem on our end. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. Calicavisto, though, we have to quickly focus on him because he's going for second place on Javier Lopez. In fact, no, Javier Lopez is trying to go for second place on Calicavisto. Cali is going defensive into the, I suppose, obvious braking zone at the end of the main straight, or the back straight, I should say. And you didn't quite have enough overspeed for Javier Lopez to go around the outside. You do have to have an awful lot of overspeed to try and, hang it around the outside there, don't you?
Yeah, you really do, and it's very tricky to try and pass Calicavisto at the moment. It seems he's always very good from whenever we've came to him out of outward curve, which is the main overtaking point, isn't it? Getting a good run out there into the hairpin. If you're good on a few corners of this track, if you're good on those specific ones, like the final corner here, and then of course the fourth corner onto that back straight, then you're kind of very difficult to overtake. So Calicavisto is doing just that. Look how close he gets to the gravel without touching it on the exit. He's getting it absolutely nailed down. But the one thing that he isn't able to do is catch up to Roberto Garcia, who's leading the race now by 3.7 seconds for Spanish Racing. Meanwhile, what's going on here? Aaron Abacus, too wide into the final two corners. Very sketchy stuff to try and send it around the outside there by Martin Smith. Martin Smith backs out, but then look at that, gets a great run out of the final corner, and they're going to be going two abreast into the first corner now. Great stuff between the pair.
It looks like they're going to be touching, aren't they? And, oh no, it's going to end badly. It's going to end very badly. Oh, it was about to be such great racing as well. I'm sure
soon
it was.
As I say it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll blame you for that one, Ed. Everybody blame Ed in the chat. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, that looked like it was going to be such a good little battle, and I'm sure it was before we cut to it. That's the shame, isn't it, sometimes? That, we find a battle, and all of a sudden it looks brilliant, and we come to it right at the end as it comes to its unfortunate conclusion in a crash. And with any luck, hopefully those guys will be coming back a little bit closer, because it is Smith's first time in the car, but it did look like there was a little bit of squeezing, people trying to move over slightly. It's a big wide straight, guys. You could have easily given each other a little bit more room, I'm sure. But as I said there, I think the stewards will maybe have a look at that if there's a complaint launched. We'll see, won't we? Back to the front now, Calicavisto, as you said. I mean, going back to that defensive driving and those important corners that you were talking about, Ed, realistically, a lot of people think defensive driving is you have to white line it, and it's sort of an amateur racer who goes in and you think, oh, I've got someone behind me, I'll just keep it on the inside at every single corner. It's not the case, is it? You essentially, especially here at Okayama, for example, you only need to defend into 2 corners, and that is the first corner and the sharp hairpin after the run up the hill, isn't it? Apart from that, it's extremely hard to overtake, so a good defensive driver won't worry about driving on the inside of the circuit going into those sort of high speed corners, because they know it's a very difficult overtaking opportunity. So what they'll do is they'll take the racing line and try and use as much momentum as they can to keep ahead of the drivers, so they can get a good run out of the corners, and then they won't have to defend into the next one, sort of thing. It's a bit of a tactical game, but that's all the experience that you gain from just racing and racing and racing.
Yeah, it is all about knowing the track itself, isn't it? You're having the experience to know where you can and can't overtake, and having to look in your rearview mirrors in those specific corners and just focusing on the task at hand. Meanwhile, we're seeing Victor Oliveira going down the inside there on Mackenzie Mann, but does Mackenzie have an answer? Going down through Revolver now and into Piper turn 7. And there is another area where you could overtake if you get a good run potentially out of this turn 7 into turns 8 and 9. There are moves that do open up. Drivers can make and break quite a lot of lap time here. The ability to really send it through this area of the circuit, I always find, is what separates the fast guys from the really fast guys. And we've seen that before. Roberto Garcia, most of the time when he gets his lap time, it's through that little sector.
It is indeed, yeah, and I just wanted to focus on, we focused on Victor Oliveira for quite a while, but I didn't bring up the reason why I wanted to focus on him. It's because he's got a brand new livery here tonight for the Land of the Rising Sun. It is rather stunning as well, I have to say, for the Fast Cars Go Bang driver. But you're right, I mean, there is that opportunity to go into turns 8 and 9, maybe, launch a move up the inside or anything like that. But the problem with, say, we go into the to the inside for turn 8, you can carry the speed around the outside of turn 8, and then you're instantly on the inside for turn 9, aren't you? It is a big braking zone, but there's not a big space to get that overspeed or try and force a driver wide. Because if you force him wide, all you're doing is forcing him to the inside for the next corner. So it is a little bit trickier, isn't it, than the, say, potentially other 2 big areas of the track that you might try and launch an attack, including here, which Victor Oliveira goes very wide. Mackenzie Mann looks like he's got a good run out and up the hill. He needs to slot back in, see if he can get that draft assistance that we saw that worked so well in Baku this evening. And I hear a little bit of crash in the background as well. I'll have a look and see who that is. But Mackenzie Mann looking around the outside. Victor Oliveira defending hard though, and there we go, keeps that position.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. I did see on the side screen that it might have been Sven Dahlman's involved in something, but we'll have a little bit of a look at that later. Let's have a look at Sven Dahlman's now. He has got his car repaired and is able to get going, but there is damage too. One of these cars, the Spirit 14 cars, and this was down into Hobbs turn 9. The cars, well, they don't really like going into each other like that, and you could see it's actually a lot more damage, I think, on the front is there of that Spirit 14 car. That's Arturo Davila.
I'm going to blame you for this one as well, because that is an overtaking move out of turn 8 into turn 9, which you just recommended. So I reckon they're listening to you there, Red. And they thought, you know what, we'll give that a go. Didn't work for them.
I did say there are some conditions, depending on if you can get a good run out of turn 7 into turn 8, and then fight back. And I don't think there was. It was just a bit of a lunge, but we didn't see the full picture of how it unfolded. The same as we didn't see the full picture of this, but we did see Amanda Bacchus go down the inside into the hairpin. But look at that, through the Revolver, giving the space down the inside to Jordan Setsanov. And, well, the space worked because he was able to hold on to the position. But all of a sudden, down the inside, the number 14 guys, the funky, fresh-looking livery there, breaks far too early, though, doesn't want to contact. Meanwhile, Amanda brakes far too late, doesn't want contact himself either. This is very, very interesting lines being taken by drivers. But look, suddenly the cutback here for Jordanin, the Hungarian driver, looks very hungry for the position. He gets it done down the inside of the second to last corner.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic driving there by Svetanov, wasn't it? Because he set that up. That's probably more what you'd like to see through turns 8 and 9, because he set that up, didn't he, going into turn 7 really, actually, because well, probably turn 6 actually, because he looked up the inside. He made Bacchus go slightly offline for the next 3 corners. He got that cut back into the penultimate corner and got it nailed. And to be honest, that's as I said, that was a fantastic drive by Svetanov. He's obviously recovering hard because he came into the pits, remember. He had that damage on the front end of his car, so he's clearly had the damage repaired, got back out there, and now he's just fought himself into the top 10 positions. Brilliant drive by him on the recovery. And I mean, I suppose we're talking about recovery. Sander Borst, he's in 6th place. That means he's only lost 3 positions off where he started, and considering he was turned round at turn 1 and was running all the way down in about 22nd position, that's fairly impressive from him as well. Obviously, we've mentioned Svetanov, who looks like he may well lose the top 10 status for a second. No, I think it's a little bit too further. Oh no, you're too far back. You're too far back, Bacchus. Oh dear, that was I mean, Bacchus just, I don't know whether he meant to try and send the move in the end, or whether he just sort of missed his braking zone and he overshot it and just couldn't stop the car. But luckily, he does the right thing. He lets Svetanov back through, but I hope for Svetanov's sake he doesn't have any damage on that suspension, because that would be really gutting after what was such a good fight back. We're on the penultimate lap.
Yeah, we are on to the second to last lap here. And it's Roberto Garcia again leading this race. Has he had any teammates all season long? He's the only driver at the moment for Hispania Racing, but for what I can remember last season, I think there were a few other Spaniards along for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen too many in this current season, but I believe Jack was saying that he was part of a team before, and so maybe he's just the last driver to be carrying on in this one. But we have seen, I think we've seen sort of get other Hispania Racing drivers drop in and out. Just off the top of my head, I can't remember who they were, unfortunately, which isn't ideal. But there is 3 weeks in between each of these rounds, so, and an awful lot of sim racing that we cover in between, isn't there, Red? But I tell you what, it's been a fantastic evening of racing, hasn't it? Hasn't been as dramatic as usual. You know, normally you can't know where to look. I mean, last time out we were at Silverstone Southern Loop, which I know you are not a fan of that particularly configuration of the circuit, but it did provide us with just completely frantic and manic racing throughout. But today we've actually been able to see battles develop, haven't we, and people actually measure up moves between each other and you know, sort of get into more of a rhythm, which is always quite nice to see. It's a little bit more refreshing, isn't it? It's not all about just manic crashing. You know, the racing purists want to see drivers line up moves, and that Svetanov move is pretty much a typical sort of example of what I'm talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about just trying to get it to come across the line in the way you want. And Roberto Garcia, wow, brilliant race for him. Javier Lopez as well for Spirit 14 Racing. He's going to get some very good points. A podium on the debut of the rebrand. Obviously not Javier Lopez's debut, but still a very good result for him. He's gone up 3 positions, but so has Calivic Cavisto. This is the fight though, isn't it? For second place. Javier Lopez is close. I think closer than he's ever been in the past 6 laps to getting up into second place. Just doesn't seem to have the straight line speed though, so Calicavisto doesn't need to defend into this hairpin.
He does not yet, does he? And to be fair, he's got a teammate in Michael Elliott in 4th place. So if Javier Lopez does attempt to try and make some kind of move, maybe he can rely on the assistance of Michael Elliott to try and make some kind of disruption for the Spirit 14 driver, because Sander Ware hasn't quite been able to keep with these sort of fight for the second place throughout the rest of the race. But we're going to have to focus somewhat on our race leader, aren't we? We haven't focused on him at all throughout the entirety of the race, and that's because after the first lap, after he got back into first place, a bit controversial on the 3rd corner, but he has been dominant from here on in. He's got a 5-second gap now, and it is going to be Roberto Garcia Campos to come across the line to take the checkered flag here at Okayama for round 8 of the Sunday Drivers Club MX-5 Cup. Great drive by Roberto Garcia Campos. Second across the line was Calicavisto with Javi Lopez and Michael Elliott. Sander Ware comes across, and Sander Borst is the driver who may well round out the top 6 once he gets through this final corner. I have to say, that is an amazing recovery drive.
Great recovery drive indeed from Sander Borst for iRacing Netherlands. Coming up through to take 6th place without a front to his car either. Great stuff. On the first corner, it looked like his evening might be done and dusted, but great fight through especially as well. Aaron McGrath comes across the line weaving. Go on, sunshine. Brilliant stuff from him. Yeah, you can celebrate all you want, mate. That was great driving there from you. Just gets through without any contact. But Aaron McGrath for Armstrong Racing, brilliant debut in the top 10. Driver gaining the most positions as well, all race, making up 12 places.
I have to say, don't often do it for Sunday drivers, but we do it on a Tuesday for some of my regular commentary work on a Tuesday, and we give driver of the days, and there is no prize in this series of driver of the day, but I'd like to nominate, I don't know about you, Aaron McGrath. He was second last in practice, he was second last in qualifying, I believe, or somewhere near there, and he's come across the line, 12 places gained, avoid all the carnage. Finished 8th place. Banged on about him a lot this evening, but I just have to say, I think it is a great debut. So, driver of the day for me, Aaron McGrath.
Yeah, Aaron McGrath, great stuff. We're going to try to come up through the field, and well, he's been able to do that. So, let's have a look, shall we? Is that all of the drivers coming across the line? I believe so. So shortly, we should be able to bring you the finishing order. In fact, here you go, Jack. Run us through.
Race winner by 5.2 seconds ahead of Calicavisto is Roberto Garcia Campos, who will extend his championship lead over the rest of the field. Javier Lopez came home in 3rd. Michael Ellett was in 4th. Sander Ware was in 5th. Sander Borst recovered up to 6th position with Joseph Keaveney in 7th. Aaron McGrath, our driver of the day, in 8th. David Gidas in 9th. Svetanov rounds out the top 10. Bacchus in 11th. Dalemond was in 12th, Hain in 13th, Puttenstein was in 14th, Arturo De Villa was 15th, 16th was 1 lap down Victor Oliveira, Mackenzie Mann also a lap down, Alviro Rodriguez Porter a lap down in 18th as well. Then 19th is Martin Smith, also a lap down, and then the rest of the drivers were an awful lot more laps down than that. Patrick Boss, 13 down, René Vere, 14 down, and I don't believe Paul Cliffs, Peter Reid, or Paya actually qualified. They didn't take the race start either. They were in the session, maybe in practice, but then obviously something may have come up, which is why they didn't take the race start. So that is your finishing order. And I have to say, we didn't mention him that much, did we? But Roberto Garcia Campos was pretty unstoppable once he got into that race lead. Ed, it was a little bit touch and go, how he got back into the race lead, though, wasn't it? If you can remember that far back.
I think I can, just about. Yeah, like you said, drivers did lose out quite a lot in the early phases of the race. Like you said, Sander Borst losing out on the first corner of the first lap, having a collision, I believe it was, with Michael Ellett. Great determination to carry back up through the field and still score some good points. That could be damage limitation for iRacing Netherlands in the team championship. As well, though, drivers taking opportunities while the championship leaders lost out. Of course, the likes of Simulation Racing Leads, SRL, both gained a lot. But look at that, the number 41 car, Patrick Borst. There could be a question mark over Roberto Garcia's win because of this incident.
Yeah, I think it is a bit touch and go. I mean, I said it at the time that it was contact, and I'm sure it wasn't, meant. Roberto Campos probably didn't mean it for it to happen, but there was definite contact there, wasn't there? And it did mean that Patrick Borst ended up falling well down the order and probably contributed him to finishing in the pit lane a good 13 laps down in the end. So not ideal for Patrick Borst or either of the Borsts on the opening lap there. But hopefully, maybe if they have stewards, they'll have a look at that one and see if there's any punishment that needs to be put out there. I think they do have stewards at the Sunday Drivers Club. They have 2 weeks to try and figure it out, whether they give a penalty for maybe not being able to qualify next time out or anything like that. I'm not entirely sure. It would be a bit harsh and a bit difficult to give them a time penalty, wouldn't it, after that one? Because they would want to put in just behind Patrick Borst, who finished in 20th, so that wouldn't quite work. So maybe a fair one potentially could be a qualifying ban for next time, Ed, or start at the back of the grid at least.
Yeah, potentially. It's very tricky, though, isn't it, to look at it from just that. Of course, the stewards will look into it themselves. So great driving. That doesn't got to take away, though, from Roberto Garcia's race victory. He definitely earned it.
He did indeed, but we actually have an interview lined up here, Ed, because I believe Gale Cavisto has joined us. I will just bring him in to have a chat to you. Let's have a look. Can we bring in Callie? Callie, congratulations on the finish there. Second place. You must be pretty proud considering you started down in 5th position.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yeah, it all came down to the start, I guess. There was some accidents between Michael and both of Borst brothers, so I did the best I could, I guess.
Well, you did a damn good job, I would say. Javier Lopez was keeping you honest throughout the race, though, wasn't he? What was the sort of the tension like in the car, I suppose, and during the race? Because the Spirit 14 machine was just in your mirrors constantly. Did you have it under control? Did you feel like you needed to defend all over the circuit, or was it just a couple of places he knew maybe he was quicker than, but you knew you were quicker out of certain corners? What was sort of the play down for the next 16 laps? Because it was a long race.
I guess he was quicker during the first half of the track, and then I was quicker during the second half of the track. But yeah, I was really like sweating all the time, and yeah, I think he was even faster than me, but somehow I just managed to hold my position. There was even one moment where I had to go very, very defensive to the right-hander after the back straight, I guess. So yeah, yeah, I'm really surprised that I managed to hold him behind me the whole race.
Well, you've certainly improved, haven't you, over the course of the last 8 rounds? You've really come into contention to be one of the strong sort of protagonists, I suppose, one of the strong contenders for the championship. And every single race, we seem to see you right at the sharp end, don't you? You're fighting for podium positions. What's it going to take, do you reckon, to make that next step and attempt to try and catch Roberto Campos? Because he seems extremely consistent and he seemed very quick tonight.
He is very quick, and also Sander Borst and Patrick Borst, they are usually quicker than me, so I don't know, I really need to find like a couple tenths for somewhere. I don't know, maybe I should buy new equipment or something.
Well, I wouldn't rush into that. We don't want you spending thousands of pounds or thousands of euros on any kind of direct drive wheels or anything like that. But it was a great race by you, and it was thoroughly entertaining as well. You were pretty much some of the closest action that we had throughout the entire race. Because normally it's Jack Werrell who has all this kind of information, but do remind us where we're off to in 2 weeks' time, because we don't have as much of a gap between now and the next round. But do remind us and the stream where on earth we're off to, if you can remember.
Could you repeat? I didn't quite catch that.
Well, we'll see, I'm sure. Well, congratulations.
I'm trying to figure out where the next round is going to be in 2 weeks' time, because we're not aware, we're not quite sure, and we're hoping you could shine some light, Kalle.
Yeah, I don't remember. And are you sure it's in 2 weeks? I thought it was in 3 weeks.
I think for the next round, it's the only one that has had to be rearranged for 2 weeks' time. So best to make sure that you sort of clarify that with Sunday drivers. But that was what as we've got on our calendar.
It says on our calendar that it's Pocono. Apparently.
Oh, Pocono.
Okay, well, anyway, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Make sure to clarify that. Well, we'll let you go, Kalle. Congratulations on second place, and we'll best be seeing you in 2 weeks' time.
Yes, thank you. Have a nice day.
And that was Kalle Kavisto, Ed. I'll just move him out of the broadcast, but I think we've got Sander Ver as well in the interview waiting room. Just having a look and see if we've got Javier Lopez as well. So we'll drag Javier Lopez in and have a chat to our third place man. Javier Lopez, congratulations on that third place. Are you there? Oh.
Can hear a very faint Javier Lopez.
Are you talking?
We'll just turn him up. Ed, you can try and have a chat to Javier.
So, Javier, congratulations on your third place. And, well, on the first round where you're running your new rebrand, that was probably everything you were hoping for.
Yeah, well, expected.
And I think we're having technical issues because, Jack, I can't quite hear Javier, and I'm not sure if you can either.
Yeah, he seems to be lagging a little bit. So, Javier, if you can hear us, maybe we'll have a chat to you next time out because we can't seem to quite hear you clearly. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I think.
Hello?
Oh, hello.
Hello?
Oh, we can hear you a little bit better there, Javier. Are you with us? I think we'll speak to Javier maybe next time in 2 weeks. Sorry about that one, Javier. A bit of a shame that we couldn't have a chat to him, another podium sitter. We'll bring in Sander Ware this time for the interview. He obviously finished a little bit further back, but still had a good race, and obviously we want to have a chat to him about the rebrand for Spirit 14 Racing. And Sander, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Sander, congratulations on that race, mainly for the Spirit 14 conglomerate, I suppose, the new team rebranding. But obviously, you had a pretty good race in 5th place as well.
Yeah, it was okay. I had hoped for a little bit more, but that was good. And
Yeah.
Xavi third, so finally some points for the team. It was good to change livery.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose because one of the biggest rivals and the championship leader in the teams is iRacing Netherlands, and they didn't quite have the race that they were hoping for, did they? With Patrick all the way down in 20th and Sander having to recover back to 6th. So there was a good opportunity for you to reclaim some points for the Spirit 14 racing team.
Yeah. I don't think they are competitors though, but we are a bit further back. But for example, for simulation racing leagues with the SRL, I think they made a little bit of a step, but still, I think the Bors brothers are far away.
Well, you never know. I mean, there's always hope, isn't there? But, I mean, you had a fantastic race with our SRL, didn't you? With Michael Ellett and Kalle Kavisto throughout the entirety of that one. You must be feeling a little bit sweaty having to work that hard to keep up with them.
Yeah, a little bit. I think me and Michael had a good scrap, and he deserved to beat me because I was on the defense, and it was a good race. It was fun at least, and at least with not too many incidents for myself. Normally, I have in the first 2 laps I have about 25 incidents. So happy to get a good result.
Yeah, you kept it clean compared to the rest of the field, I have to say. What's with the new rebrand as well, then? What's the background of that one? Because obviously it was H20 Esports before. Now it's Spirit 14. What's the story behind it?
Number 14 is Johan Cruyff, our Dutch legend.
I like that.
As I myself work for the Johan Cruyff Foundation, the Spirit 14 brand is focused on that. So also the Cruyff Foundation logos on the car, and it's just a little bit of a how you say
a nod?
a nod towards Johan. And also we had a year of branding with H20 that was in Okayama last year. So this year this came full circle. It was time to do something else.
I'm actually very interested by the Johan Cruyff Foundation, actually. Ed, I know, is a bit of a football fan. I know a lot of the people who may be listening and watching this maybe not football fans, but because obviously they're motorsport fans but primarily. But what do you do with the Johan Cruyff Foundation then? What's sort of your main role in that?
My main role, I'm the second man. I'm the sub director here in Spain, and I do small Cruyff pitches all over the world. So I'm the international Cruyff courts manager, and Xavi actually is a volunteer for the Cruyff Foundation, and he works on one of the Cruyff courts. Alvaro is also involved in the Cruyff Institute, so it's all a bit of a Cruyff thing, and the rest of our team comes from my brother's input. So the work from space from the brother. He works in cars, so Henrico and Arturo and also Luis, they all come from that background. So we are a mix of Cruyff and the car world.
Blimey heck, no wonder you got so many drivers here today. It sounds like a fantastic organisation to be a part of. Well, Sander, congratulations on your 5th place. Congratulations on the team scoring some good points as well, even if SRL scored some good points around you as well. We'll hopefully be speaking to you next time out, and a little bit of an apology that the project file and the the broadcast link wasn't sent to you a little bit quicker. We'll get it sorted for next time. But we're off to Pocono, aren't we? In 2 weeks' time this time. We just had a little bit of a confusion as we were chatting to Kalle Kavisto, but it is confirmed that we were back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, and it is Pocono. It's a bit of a strange track. It's not a normal iRacing. I don't think there's a lot of racing on Pocono, and it's the international version, which has a very strange chicane before coming back onto the oval. But it will be fun, I think. And we try to do only free tracks, only so that for people who just start iRacing, they can directly join the league. That's a bit the the philosophy behind it. And yeah, that's why we do these sometimes a little bit of odd tracks, but yeah, I think it's fun. And I heard also that there was in the race today there was some shenanigans going on in front. I didn't see it, but I hope we can have next race a lot of cars on the grid again, and hopefully people calm down and come back next race, because in the WhatsApp group there are some some people a bit ticked off.
Yeah, well, I mean, I accidentally gave my opinion on one or two of them a little bit quicker than I probably should have done, but I'll let you watch them back, Sander, and form your own opinion on that one. Obviously, congratulations on the 5th place. I hope to see Spirit 14 in 2 weeks' time at Pocono. Congratulations on 5th for yourself, and we'll let you get off for the evening.
Okay, thanks, and thanks for the broadcast, guys.
Oh, actually, I forgot. It was only a bit like to give a shout out to. Normally Jack says that bit, but I forgot about it.
Well, I do it myself. No, shout out to you guys. I see Ed is with you today, and yeah. So thanks for the broadcast. Thanks for all the guys participating as always. I think we are the league that we are because of all the drivers, and the fact that there are so many different levels, so many people who are actually living up every 3 weeks. Normally now it will be 2 weeks, but after the 2 weeks it will be 4 weeks. So it's always a long wait, but people are really they're getting during the weeks. They're in the WhatsApp group. They're making a bit of noise, and yeah, it's really a little bit of a little family that we have. So hopefully we can keep on growing. And yeah, just thanks to everyone involved.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, congratulations, Sander, on the good results, and hopefully we'll see you back in the interview waiting room and potentially back on the podium in 2 weeks.
Yes, hope so. Okay, guys, thanks.
Thank you very much. And that was Sander Ware, Ed. We'll probably round out the stream now, won't we? It was a stunning race. It was lovely to have you along as well. Thank you very much for jumping in. And I suppose, I mean, it's just classic MX-5 racing here, isn't it? For the Sunday drivers, it doesn't matter what league you look at. MX-5's produced brilliant driving.
Yes, absolutely. Great driving. And of course, there were some standout performances, like we've already mentioned. Aaron McGrath on his debut for Armstrong Racing. Great drive, up 12 positions into 8th place. Other the drives as well, like we just mentioned. We had Sander Borst, the other Sander that we didn't have a chance to speak to, but Borst had a great drive, didn't he, for iRacing Netherlands, fighting back, scoring some much needed points after a very poor start. But then, of course, Roberto Garcia, he just likes to keep on winning, doesn't he, Jack? And I wonder if he can carry on this run of form into Pocono in, well, a couple of weeks' time.
We'll have to wait and see, won't we? But from myself and Ed May, who is not on that race info, we thank you very much for watching. Please do follow and subscribe to anywhere that you're watching this stream, whether it's be SRW, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or the Sunday Drivers Facebook page as well. If you're following, then you're watching, that's for sure. And you'll be notified next time round in 2 weeks' time at Pocono. We'll see you later.